Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Transparency and Ethics. We have a full day, our last 5 budgets of our work on with the budget process. But before we jump into those, I do have a bill introduction by Senator Wellborn. So this is last day for bill introductions. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished members of this committee. What a pleasure to appear before you. I do have a bill request. It's 24 RS 2740. It's an act concerning government ethics, increasing the amount for gifts and other economic hospitality issues, reflecting the change in inflation over the time.
Thank you. Without objection, I don't see any, so we'll accept that.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Well, we have a very full day. We'll make the most of our 55 minutes. Our first hearing is Board of Accountancy, and our overview by research is Sharday Kane. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning. Happy Monday. The Board of Accountancy, I'm on the first page of the Board of Accountancy's document as well. The Board of Accountancy provides for the certification and regulation of certified public accountants within the state of Kansas. The board itself is composed of 7 individuals, all of whom must be residents of Kansas. The board may adopt and amend rules and regulations that govern the practice of accountancy, such as the educational qualifications and the professional ethics by which accountants must abide. Some information: the office for the Board of Accountancy is in the Landon Building, and in fiscal year 2023, the agency had 13,347 total certificates, including 172 new certification holders. I'm going to move on to page 2. The 2023 legislature approved a budget of $497,491, all from the Board of Accountancy fee fund for the Board of Accountancy for fiscal year 2024. No adjustments were made subsequently to that amount. The agency requests a revised estimate of $507,385, all from the Board of Accountancy fee fund, and expenditures and 3 FTE positions. That revised estimate is about $10,000 or 2% above the amount approved by the 2023 legislature, and primarily that is due to a supplemental request for a database conversion and another supplemental request for increased legal fees. On the top of page 3, the governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2024 revised estimate. Moving on to the middle of page, agency requests $468,475, all from the Board of Accountancy fee fund, and this is an increase of about $42,000 or 9.9% above the amount approved by the 2023 legislature. This increase is primarily attributable to the agency's 4 enhancement requests, and also this is 3 FTEs, just as before. We're going to move on to page, and as we move forward, the page 4 is a breakdown of the summary by category of expenditure, and additionally the fee fund expenditures over the last 10 years. The Board of Accountancy fee fund expenditures, so you can see the revenue, the expenditures, and the ending balance on the top of page 5. And at the bottom of page 5, you can see the licensure fees. The fees were last raised in 2019, and prior to 2019, fees were last raised in 1999. And we already talked about fiscal year 2024, so that's page 6. Page 7 shows the change from actual expenditures, which is primarily attributable to those 2 supplemental requests that we talked about for fiscal year 2024. And on page 8 in the middle, I mentioned the 4 enhancement requests for fiscal year 2025. Those are the database conversion. So once the conversion takes place, then the agency will have maintenance fees throughout, but this will kind of stabilize itself. The Second request is for hospitality of $400 due to the executive director retiring and in order to hold a retirement reception. Item number 3 is legal fees due to increased contract costs related to conducting investigations. And item number 4 is the pay plan in total of $15,119. The governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2025 request, and I am happy to stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Sharday. You did that very nicely. Do we have questions, committee? Governor recommends both years, straightforward. All right. I don't see any questions. If Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just, as I was looking at the license fees, and I looked at the one on page 524, it says initial permit to practice 1 year or less. It has a current fee at $82.50, and it limits goes all the way up to $350. Could you expand on that? Thank you.
Yes, so the statutory limit is $350. As I mentioned, the board last raised their fees to 2019, and the executive director, Susan Summers, is here to maybe clarify if that specific license has been raised, but to my understanding, the current fees have been the same since 2019.
Would you like to speak to the director? Would you like her to answer your question? She could, if she would, come up.
If you'd like to answer that, I just such a variety, I mean, just such a range there, I just couldn't understand that. Thank you.
This is not atypical, Senator. I'm Susan Summers. I'm the retiring director of the Board of Accountancy. In statutory limits are the level to which you can charge up to a fee. When I started in '96, we had a low fee fund. And so in '99, we raised our fees, but we were stable for many years until 2019. At that time, we were capped out. So when we went back to the legislature, we increased our caps on all of our fees. The fees that you see there are what we're currently charging. The $350 is what we're allowed to reach at some point, but we're nowhere close to that.
Yes. Okay.
Fine.
Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the budget for '25, the reduction, is that due to fewer accountants, or what's causing the overall reduction in the budget?
In expenditures?
Yes.
It's because we're doing a database conversion, so we're going to see a decrease in what we're currently paying for our database, and also I'm retiring, so there's a difference in salary there too.
Well, happy retirement early from the committee.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That it?
All right, I don't see any other questions. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your time
This
today.
time I'd be open to a motion. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just saw the retiring director on Friday at our Joint Committee on Regulations. So she is putting in the work right here at the end of her time. And I would make a motion that I move the committee approve the FY 2024 and FY 2025 budgets for the Board of Accountancy as presented.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Senator Schallenberger, beat you to it, Senator Thompson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Discussion, motion carries. Okay, we're on to Board of Veterinarian Examiners, and today from Research, we have Luke Drury. Welcome to the committee, Luke.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Apologize for my voice today, a little bit gravelly. You should have the Board of Veterinary Examiners budget in front of you. I would note that Mark Olson, the Executive Director, is here with us committee as well today. The Board of Veterinary Examiners was established in 1907 for the purpose of protecting the public health and safety by ensuring, through examination and registration, a minimum standard of skill and ability, and veterinarians practicing in Kansas. Page 1 there, the table budget overview, high level overview of the budget. I'd like to begin my presentation on page 3. On page 3, you will see some more detail in regard to expenditures and financing. This is one of those agencies that has one fee fund, the Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund, and that finances the entire operating expenditures of the board. At the bottom of the page there is an examination over the last 10 years, expenditures from the Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund. The Board of Veterinary Examiners is fee funded, and the revenue received provides for financing of all operations. 90% of that, which is retained by the agency, and 10% goes to the general fund, and that is pursuant to KSA 47820. And then if we flip over to page 4, there's an examination of recent revenues, expenditures, and ending balances in the fee fund over a number of fiscal years. The left side, or green, is revenues. The right side, or red, are expenditures. And then the yellow through line that traverses those columns are ending balances. I would note that an ending balance is simply a snapshot in time as of June 30 of any given fiscal year. That is the ending balance that occurred in that particular fee fund. The Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund has experienced increased revenues from license fees in 23 when compared to 22. Actual revenues did increase due to increased renewals. Revenues and expenditures are estimated to grow at approximately 1.1% and 1.2% respectively. Below there, you will see a current table of the license fees by the board. I would also note that the board does have roughly 2,700 veterinary active licenses, 82 institutional veterinary license, 740 veterinarian technician active registrations, and 642 veterinary premise registrations. I would also note as well, you will see that while the ending balances have been roughly $240,000 over the last couple of fiscal years, and that's where they are estimated to be, that cash flow, again, as a snapshot in time, does show potential $45,000 as the lowest ending balance. The board is estimating that they will request increases in fees. However, they are not estimating that they will make that request of the legislature until the 2025 or later legislative sessions. They would need to have increase in their caps through the legislature, and then in order to increase fees, that would need to go through the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regulations. When we flip over to page 5, that's the 2024 analysis. The table at the top shows the legislative approved amount. There were no changes subsequent to the 2023 session, so no adjustments were made to the $380,625 for the board. The agency is estimating no changes, and the governor recommends no changes. When we flip over to page 7, that is the 2025 analysis. The agency is requesting $385,316, all from their fee fund, and expenditures in 3.8 FTE positions. That's an increase of roughly $12,000 or 3.2% above the approved budget for 2025. Again, this is one of those biennial agencies that has a budget approved for 24 and 25 already. That increase is attributable to item number 1, that is the pay plan shortfall. The request includes roughly $12,000 from the Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund to account for the increase in expenditure limitations that was inadvertently left out during the legislative pay plan in 2023, as it was enacted by Senate Bill 25. Item number 2 on there, the governor's recommendation. She recommends no changes to the agency's FY 2025 request. Madam Chair, I can stand for questions if the committee has any.
Thank you, Luke. Very nice. Do we have any questions? And we do have the director with us today, Mark Olson. Yes. Do we have any questions for Mark? Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I guess my question would be, the director can probably answer this. How many veterans, well, I don't, you don't have to answer veterans, veterinarians, do we have in the state of Kansas, and do we have enough to cover the state? And that, thank you.
That's the Senator Reichman. Thank you for that question. Committee members, it's a privilege to be here before you today. Presently residing in Kansas, there are 1,748 veterinarians, and of those, we have just close to 2,800 And we have several veterinarians that live out of state that practice in Kansas. I don't know specifically what that number is. We're trying to get that figured out. But of the 2,800 licensed veterinarians, 1,740 live in the state. And then I also have, and I think it was handed out to you, a map that has the number of veterinarians living in each county.
There we go. That's very nice. Thank you for providing this to us also.
To address your last question, Senator Reichman, do we have a shortage? The Kansas Veterinary Medical Association conducted a survey from January 17 through February 1st. The results of that survey is being compiled by the statistician, and that information will be coming out here very shortly in this legislative session. So that can be argued both ways, and we're trying to get some data and statistics to answer that question better.
Okay. Senator McGinn.
And you'll be dividing that as to large animal versus small.
The KVMA took care of that survey. I believe that's the case. I'm not 100% sure on that, but what I can say, which will be helpful, if we didn't get the proper questions answered that everybody need, the board has the licensee information, and we'll send up follow-up surveys to get that information if we don't have it.
Seems like we have a lot of puppy dog vets, but not horse
Yeah.
and cattle.
That, I would definitely agree with that, yeah.
Thank you. And your office is in Wamego.
That's correct. Yeah, the Board of Veterinary Examiners, we spend time here in Topeka and we also spend time in Manhattan, so it actually works out quite well for when we need to speak at the school or be here, so.
Well, thank you for popping up, Mark, and seeing us.
Sure.
I don't see any other questions, so entertain a motion. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee recommend the fiscal year 2024 and 2025 budgets from the Board of Veterinary Examiners as presented.
All right, I have a motion. Senator Thompson seconds. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, we are on to our next one, Kansas State Board of Mortuary Arts. And from our research department, we have Amanda Prosser. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. All right, looking at the BA in front of you, you have mortuary arts. They regulate embalmers, funeral directors, crematory operators, funeral establishments, and branch establishments and crematories. Looking right at that front table, you can see everything that's going on. The governor concurred with the agency's recommendation for 2024, that $332,000. The governor also concurred with the agency's recommendation in 25, which is that $334,000 that you see. That increase, similar to all the other agencies, is due to the pay plan shortfall. I think it totals around $9,600. You can see it on page 9. The only other thing I would point out for this agency is they are in the process of increasing their fees. You can see on page 6, they're well within their statutory limits. Individual licensees renew biennially and establishments renew annually. Knowing that, the agency estimates that these fee increases will increase their total revenue by about $67,000 this fiscal year and then about $58,000 in fiscal year 2025. And so any of the numbers that you see in this document for 24 and 25 do include those fee increases. And J.W. Carey, the executive director, is here, or executive secretary is here if you have any additional questions.
Very nice, Amanda. Do we have any questions? Covered that very thoroughly. Will we have any questions for the director? Would you like to say hello to us? Come on up and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is J.W. Carey, and I'm the Executive Secretary of the Kansas State Board of Mortuary Arts, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions. I think Amanda does a pretty thorough job, but.
Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not a question, but I appreciate the fact that you're not increasing the apprenticeship embalmer registration fee, because I know that that's important to have that program.
They are our lifeline, and they are the future of the funeral directing industry in the state of Kansas. And, there's been a lot of talk about some of the students that aren't coming in, and that is true. But I still am seeing quite a good impact from the school that we even have here in the state of Kansas, Kansas City, Kansas Community College. They have a good matriculation, so I'm impressed.
Where's your office located? Are you in the Landon
No, we're located in the Jayhawk.
Jayhawk Tower? Oh, thank you. Senator Schallenbarger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for being here. So if I'm a funeral director and an embalmer and have a crematory, I get all the licenses, so I pay quite a bit in fees.
You do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Have you had much pushback from the fees increasing from your members, from your licensees?
This is relatively new. I did not, this is my third year here, but this is my first time going through really a regulation change with fees, and I didn't understand the process of how long it takes. Our notice of public hearing was just published last Thursday, and so our public hearing will be set for April the 11th, and we're going to offer that open comment period for licensees, the association, and everything else like that to give us their feedback on this. But I will note that fees have not been increased since 2011. So it has been 13 years that we have not increased the fees, and we are still well under our statutory maximums.
Thank you. That was my next question is, when was the last time? So thanks for capturing that. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. Committee, I don't see any other questions. Would I have a motion? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee recommend the budgets for the Kansas State Board of Mortuary Arts for fiscal years 2024 and 2025 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Senator Thompson. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. All right, our last two budgets, we will have Molly Pratt, our first one of the two Kansas Department of Credit Unions. And with research, Molly Pratt, welcome to the committee.
Hi, Chair Bowers and members of the committee. My name is Molly Pratt. I'm a fiscal analyst with the Legislative Research Department, and I'll be presenting the budget analysis for the Kansas Department of Credit Unions. Also here today is Julie Murray, the administrator for the credit unions. The mission of the department is to protect Kansas citizens from undue risk by ensuring safe and sound operation of state-chartered credit unions. The agency regulates state-chartered credit unions to assure compliance with state and federal laws. KDCU is empowered to conduct examinations, grant new charters, approve mergers, and provide for liquidation procedures when necessary. State-chartered credit unions are required to be examined at least every 18 months and pay an operation fee based on asset size per year. If you'll turn to page 3, you'll see a category of expenditures chart as well as a bar graph detailing the credit union fee fund expenditures. The credit union fee fund is the only source of funds for the Kansas Department of Credit Unions. Expenditures from the credit union fee fund have remained relatively steady for several years. The majority of the agency's expenditures are budgeted for salaries and wages as well as contractual services. On page 5, you'll see that assessment of fees are based on page 4, you'll see that assessment of fees are based on the asset size of state-chartered credit unions on March 31st of each year. Prior to June 1st of each year, the credit union administrator establishes an examination fee that is similar to the schedule established by the National Credit Union Administration, while also sufficient to meet the budget requirements of the agency. During fiscal year 2023, the agency provided a one-time reduction of 30% in fee assessments in order to pass along savings to the credit unions that the agency had acquired due to travel restrictions during the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the number of credit unions in the state has decreased in recent years, the number of assets held by the credit unions has increased. As such, the agency anticipates that its revenues will continue to increase. On page 6, you'll find the fiscal year 2024 analysis. Subsequent to the 2023 session, no adjustments were made to the $1.3 million appropriated to the Department of Credit Unions for fiscal year 2024. The agency requests a revised budget of $1.4 million, all from the Credit Union Fee Fund, for expenditures in fiscal year 2024. This is an increase of $90,000, or 6.9% above the fiscal year 2024 approved budget, which is entirely due to the supplemental request for travel to on-site examinations and professional development trainings. The agency notes that expenses for travel and subsistence and other contractual services were lower in recent years due to reduced travel during the COVID-19 pandemic. The agency estimates that they will have 8 full-time employees who will spend half of their time traveling throughout the state to conduct on-site examinations. Absent the supplemental request, the revised estimate does not change from the amount previously approved by the 2023 legislature. There are several funding shifts throughout the category of expenditures, though, specifically shifts in funding from salaries and wages to contractual services to provide for, among other services, job-related training and conference registration, as well as dues and subscriptions. The agency estimate also includes 12 FTE positions, which is the same as the approved number of positions in fiscal year 2024. And the governor does not recommend any changes to the agency's revised estimate in fiscal year 2024. On page 9, you'll find the fiscal year 2025 analysis. The agency requests $1.4 million, all from the fee fund, in expenditures for fiscal year 2025. This is an increase of $130,844, or 10.3% above the fiscal year 2025 approved budget. The request includes $90,000, all from the fee fund, for travel to on-site examinations and professional development trainings. The request also includes $40,844, all from the fee fund, for fiscal year 2025 to account for an increase in expenditure limitations that was inadvertently left out of the legislative pay plan and 2023 Senate Bill 25. Absent the enhancement request, the revised estimate does not change from the amount previously approved by the 2023 legislature. And the governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate of $1.4 million and 12 FTE positions for fiscal year 2025. And with that, I will be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Molly. Very thorough. Do we have questions? Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. If I'm reading this right, the 24 budget was 37% above the 23 budget, and the 25 budget is 10% above the 24 budget.
I'm sorry, would you mind telling me where you see those numbers?
Well, I'm on the first page, seeing the 37%. All funds went up 37, went from $1,014,000 to $1,397,000. And down here it says 37%. I'm just taking your word for that. And then you just stated that the 25 was a 10% increase over 24.
I'm sorry, that was a 10% increase above the previously approved amount for fiscal year 2025. It is a 0.2% above the fiscal year 2024 revised estimate, and an increase of approximately 10% above the amount approved by the 2023 legislature for fiscal year 2025.
Do you know why they went up? It's gone up so much in the last 2 years.
So,
Director or whoever here.
yes, the director is here. She can probably explain it a little bit more clearly than I can.
Come on up and tell us your name.
Myself comfortable. I'm Julie Murray. I'm the administrator for the agency, and Molly did a nice job. Our actuals were very low because we had some significant staffing shortages. And we were literally probably running with about 4 out of the 8 traveling positions, and that was the reason for the difference. I can happily say that we are in the appropriate staffing level now, so that's why we need to make the supplemental request. The other thing that I'd like to say is that it doesn't change the fees to our credit unions. I did have a meeting with our credit union CEOs last year where I shared our strategic plan. And it included some training. It included the budget enhancement that I was going to ask for. And they supported what we were looking to do. They look for us to do a separate set of eyes on their operations. And they feel like what we're looking for will give them a better product in the end. So that's all I really wanted to say today. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Senator Francisco.
I do not have any questions, but when I served on the board for our credit union, we did take advantage of the visits from this department to overlook the books. And that's when we were in the basement of the community mercantile, right in front of the sacks of rice.
Oh, goodness. I'm glad to hear that. We work really hard to establish a partnership, and as things are changing, it's pretty complicated. So we like to meet with our credit unions one-on-one.
Yes, I don't see any other questions. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Julie. So yes, I am ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the committee recommend the FY 2024 and FY 2025 budgets for the Kansas Department of Credit Unions as presented.
Say I have a motion. Do I have a second? Senator Straub, seconds. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you. And Molly is back up. She is with the Office of the State Bank Commissioner, and we're doing really well on time. We do have Barbara Albright, the Director of Finance and Administration with the Office of the State Bank Commissioner, here with us, and David Herndon, Bank Commissioner, Office of the State Bank Commissioner. So welcome to the committee with us, and after we'll go through Molly's presentation and questions, they do have a quick slideshow for us, so I believe we have enough time. We've worked through our budgets really quickly. So go ahead, Molly. Thank you.
Hi again, members of the committee. My name is Molly Pratt with Legislative Research Department, and I will be presenting the budget analysis for the Office of the State Bank Commissioner. The Office of the State Bank Commissioner ensures the integrity of regulated providers of financial services through responsible and proactive oversight. The OSBC is responsible for protecting consumers from unfair or unscrupulous credit practices and promoting public trust in the state financial system by educating consumers. The OSBC is headed by a commissioner who is appointed by the governor to serve a four-year term. A 9-member banking board, also appointed by the governor, serves in an advisory capacity to the Banking and Trust Division and in the administration of the banking laws of Kansas. If you'll turn to page 4, you'll see a breakdown of the category of expenditures, as well as a bar graph detailing the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund. The Office of the State Bank Commissioner does not typically use SGF and is instead funded entirely by assessment and fee income. The Bank Commissioner Fee Fund is the main source of revenue and expenditures for the OSBC. In fiscal year 2023, actual expenditures from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund were $11.7 million. On page 5, you'll note that the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund earns revenue from assessments and application fees paid by state-chartered banks, trust entities, and TEFIs. Bank assessments are based on assets as reported to the FDIC, whereas trust and TEFI assessments are based on the total fiduciary assets as reported to the call report. The OSBC employs a tiered rate schedule for determining assessment fees and collects assessment fees 3 times a year. The tiered rate schedule allows the assessments charged to state-chartered banks to be routinely less than the assessments charged to national banks. On page 6, you'll note that the Consumer Education Settlement Fund is funded by fines incurred on banks from consumer complaints. In fiscal year 2023, actual expenditures from the Consumer Education Settlement Fund were $170,286. This was to support financial education initiatives by providing grants to fund certain activities conducted by educators, nonprofit organizations, and other entities throughout Kansas. Per the agency, grant funds will provide many types of financial literacy education to Kansas consumers of all ages. If you'll turn to page 8, you will find the fiscal year 2024 analysis. The 2023 legislature approved a budget of $13.4 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 112 FTE positions for the Office of the State Bank Commissioner for fiscal year 2024. No adjustments were made to the $13.4 million appropriated to the office in fiscal year 2024. The agency submits a revised estimate of $13.3 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 114 FTE positions in fiscal year 2024. This is a decrease of $109,648, or 0.8% below the fiscal year 2024 approved amount. The revised estimate includes a supplemental request of $127,714, all from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund, and an increase of 2 FTE positions to hire additional trust examiners in fiscal year 2024. The agency anticipates that the number of trust assets under the OSBC's regulatory supervision will double due to a recent approval of a new financial institution in the state. Additional trust examiners are requested so that the agency can ensure trust files, which are increasingly complex in nature, are adequately reviewed. The revised estimate also includes $68,467, all from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund, for compensation increases for OSBC staff. According to the agency, a competitive salary structure for their examiners and other staff will allow the agency to attract and retain high-quality employees rather than compete with the FDIC and private financial institutions. Also included in the revised estimate is an additional $12,240, all from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund, to increase the per diem compensation for members of the State Banking Board. The current per diem rate of $35 per meeting attended has not changed since 1974. And absent the supplemental request, the revised estimate includes a decrease of $318,249 in base budget expenditures. Significant adjustments relate to subsistence and travel, as well as contractual services due to the agency believing that they would need more money than necessary to regulate the TEFI industry. However, now that they've had about a year to regulate the industry, the agency has not received any new applications to establish additional TEFIs, and they were able to conduct the examination of the one existing TEFI with existing resources. However, if more TEFIs are established, the agency notes that it will likely need more additional monies to properly examine and regulate the additional TEFIs. Also included in the revised estimate is 114 FTE positions, which is an increase of 2 positions from the approved number due to the request for additional examiners. The governor recommends expenditures of $13.3 million, all from special revenue funds. This is a decrease of $12,240, or 0.1% below the agency's revised estimate due to the governor not recommending the agency's supplemental request to increase the per diem compensation for members of the State Banking Board. If you'll turn to page 12, you'll find the analysis for fiscal year 2025. The agency submits a revised estimate of $13.3 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 114 FTE positions. This is an increase of $399,501, or 3.1% above the fiscal year 2025 approved amount. The revised estimate includes an enhancement request of $163,793, all from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund, and an increase of 2 FTE positions so that the agency can hire additional trust examiners for fiscal year 2025. Additional examiners are requested so that the agency can ensure trust files, which are increasingly complex in nature, are adequately reviewed. The revised estimate also includes an enhancement request of $68,262, all from the Bank Commissioner Fee Fund, for compensation increases for OSBC staff. Also included is an enhancement request of $12,240 to increase the per diem compensation for members of the State Banking Board for fiscal year 2025. And finally, the revised estimate includes an enhancement request of $462,247, all from the Fee Fund for fiscal year 2025, to account for an increase in expenditure limitations that was inadvertently left out of the legislative pay plan in 2023 Senate Bill 25. The agency's revised estimate also includes 114 FTE positions, which is an increase of 2 FTE positions due to the agency's request for additional examiners. For fiscal year 2025, the governor recommends expenditures of $13.3 million. This is a decrease of $12,420, or 1.1% below the agency's fiscal year 2025 revised estimate, due to the governor not recommending the agency's supplemental request to increase the per diem compensation for members of the State Banking Board. And with that, I will be happy to stand for questions.
Senator Fasquedo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what was the reason that you received that the governor didn't support that recommendation?
At this time, I do not have additional information on that. However, I'd be happy to reach out to the Division of Budget and see if they have a more detailed reasoning.
Senator Stephan.
Thank you. Now, is that per diem, is that statutory or is that just a?
Yes, it is statutory. I believe the statute, I don't believe that I have the statute number listed in the budget analysis. However, it does control that per diem compensation shall be at $35 per meeting. However, I've had a discussion with our advisor because the House has already heard this budget and recommended adding the $12,240. The advisor stated that a proviso will be needed to, if the legislature does decide to increase the per diem limitation.
Another question? No.
Statement.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. I think we should give some thought to doing away with the per diem entirely rather than freezing it, because freezing it at a 74 level is the same as doing away with it. I know the bankers to be well-heeled individuals. I think they can get that meeting on their own just fine.
Any additional questions? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that there was a bill that had been introduced to address the amount of per diem. Do you know where that bill is?
Yes, to my knowledge, that was for all statutory boards, and that is currently in Senate Ways and Means. I don't have the bill number with me right now, but I can get that to you.
Thank you, or we can ask our staff to get that for us. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions for Molly. Barbara, would you like to come forward to see if we have any questions for you and to start your slideshow? I do have a question. We've dealt with this several years in a row, I believe, and maybe Senator McGinn will go into this. Did we have a special bill several years ago that dealt with this topic and not in a bundle like Senator Francisco mentioned?
Yes, we did. And then there was a special committee set last year and in the interim to look at board compensation. The bill number is House Bill 2449, and it is sitting in Senate Ways and Means. My understanding was it never went to the floor on the Senate side last year.
Senator McGinn.
I'm sorry, I don't remember, did we hear it? Is it sitting there because we already had a hearing, it's just sitting there because we haven't worked it to kick it out, or did it have a hearing?
I honestly can't recall, Senator.
What was that number again?
House Bill 2449.
Thank you.
Just a sec, Senator McGinn, or Senator Straub. Elena?
Thank you, Madam Chair. According to the legislature's website, House Bill 2449 did not have a hearing in Senate Ways and Means.
Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to change the subject a little bit here. And hi, Barb. Hi. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having raising such a sweet daughter too.
Oh, thank you.
My question is regarding the Tuffy regulation. Do you know, or have you had any issues with it? And do you know of any other institutions like this in the nation?
I do not know of any, but Commissioner Herndon can probably answer that a little bit better. If you want to do that now, or do you?
Yes.
You want to do that now? Okay.
Come on up, David.
Well, good morning and thank you. I am David Herndon. I am the Kansas Bank Commissioner. No, Kansas is unique to the TEFI law. There is no other state that has adopted, and to my knowledge, no other state that has considered adopting the TEFI legislation. We do have the initial TEFI. That is the only one that's in existence. The TEFI Act was approved in the 2021 session, and there have been no inquiries, no applications until last week when the existing TEFI, which is called BFF LLC, it's a subsidiary of a company called Beneficient out of Dallas, Texas. A representative from BFF contacted our office and said that they had a customer and a significant shareholder in the parent company, Beneficient, who would probably like to start a TEFI. There was no conversation with representatives from that entity and no applications received from us or to us.
You have a follow-up question, and then we'll have Senator McGinn and Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't want to get you off the subject of this. I believe there was a class action lawsuit in Texas regarding one of the individuals involved with Beneficient. I don't know how to say this exactly, but do you foresee any issues arising out of that lawsuit? And I don't even know the update on the status of that lawsuit, but I know it's tied to Beneficient or BFF LLC.
Yes, there have been several lawsuits filed against a predecessor company of Beneficient that was called GWG Holdings. It's in bankruptcy, and there were several class action lawsuits filed against what were called L bonds, which were investments sold to the public across the country. $1.6 billion that was defaulted and led to the GWG bankruptcy. Beneficient was a subsidiary of GWG, spun off about the time of the bankruptcy filing. Since that time, Beneficient and certain principals of Beneficient, officers and directors, have been personally sued by claiming a default. And the SEC has an investigation ongoing that has resulted in what's called Wells notices issued against Beneficient and certain of their officers and directors. A Wells notice is the document presented by the investigative arm of the SEC as a referral to the prosecuting arm of the SEC. There's been no action that I'm aware of since those notices were issued early in the fourth quarter last year.
Thank you for thoroughly covering that. I appreciate it.
Senator McGinn.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going to happen moving forward. That TEFI is in my district, and it all started with Mom wanted a grocery store, and there's no grocery store today.
That is correct.
And I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, how are we auditing what they're doing?
The examinations that my office completes do not include safety and soundness examinations because the TEFI Act prohibits that from us doing that. We are doing IT, information technology audits, and compliance audits for state and federal compliance with state and federal statutes and rules, but there is no safety and soundness audit or examination being conducted by our office.
So it's not, we don't know that it's doing anything for the state. And if we don't know it's doing anything for the state, maybe we should just get rid of it. Because I'm not seeing results. I thought I was going to see little grocery stores pop up all over the state. and that's not happening.
It's not happening, and as I commented, there have been no subsequent applications for TEFIs.
Thank you.
Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I talk to Barbara real quick, please? You said there was an interim committee that suggested that fee from $35 to $150, correct? And you that said that.
There was an interim committee. I don't think they stated $35 to $150. I believe, and I would have to double check, that they talked about making it the same pay as you guys receive, not the $150. So tying it to legislator pay.
Can I follow up on that? So was that the same committee that almost doubled the legislators' pay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other questions. I don't think we're going to have time for your slideshow. Would you like to tell us? Yeah, we do have it in our packet.
Okay.
Yes, don't we?
Could I just hit a couple highlights?
Yes, why don't you do
Okay.
that, and then we should vote, and then we'll have to dash
Okay,
one.
that'd be great. So a couple things I just wanted to point out. If you remember last year, we were here asking for 2 new IT examiners, okay? In the packet, and you guys can review at your leisure, it kind of shows how IT examination has evolved in the depository institutions as well as non-depository, and what the state bank commissioner's office has done to support that and, quite frankly, be a leading charge for all states. We are recognized at the federal level or the national level as a leader in that area. So you guys can see that. And I also want to point out that every one of those positions has been filled. So we have an IT examination manager and 8 IT examiners, and all of those are filled now. So one of the budget supplemental requests I really wanted to hit on was the 2 trust examiners that we're requesting for this year. So, and I can't remember exactly what page without flipping through here, but on my presentation, page 7, it talks about trust examinations and why we have 3 trust examiners currently that regulates $73 billion in assets. In December of 2023, the State Banking Board approved a new trust company, and that trust company is in operation today. Commissioner Herndon just informed me this morning he talked to the person in charge of that trust company, and they have brought in $62 billion of assets that we now will regulate for the Bank Commissioner's Office. This is why we're requesting 2 new trust examiners, because that almost doubles our total assets. And the assets actually are from the Bank of Montreal, Canada. So that this Midwest Trust, institutional trust company was started for. So I just wanted to make sure you understood why we're requesting the 2 new trust examiners. That would bring our total department to 5.
Thank you for going over that with us. And so sorry we didn't have enough time.
It's okay.
This is our last one. We had 5, and sometimes they go quick, but we have spent a lot of time on your budget too, so we do appreciate these numbers as well.
Thank you.
So thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Schallenbarger.
Thank you. So banks pay fees.
Yes, sir.
It's all fee funded. When a bank is examined, do they pay for the examination on top of their other fees?
They do not. We have that authority, but we do not charge today.
And my second question is, if there's a trust office in Kansas, but the bank is in Missouri, do you examine that?
Depends on where the institution is chartered. So we have branches in Kansas.
I don't know if each trust office has a charter or not.
Yes, you have to have a trust office.
Or every office has to have a charter.
No,
If the
you
Bank
can
of
have branch
Kansas
offices.
Bank of Kansas City has a trust office in Pittsburgh. Do you examine the Pittsburgh office?
Yes, but they also we examine their branch office as well.
in Kansas City, Missouri. The Bank of Kansas City,
Yes.
Missouri has a branch in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Yes. All of their reports, data, whatever, we would examine in Pittsburgh, and they're required to provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you, Barb, for being here. And in the interest of time, I think we need to move on quickly with a motion. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm doing this with the assumption that the bill in Ways and Means would probably not come out before fiscal 2025 starts. So I move the committee recommend the 2024 budget for the Office of the State Bank Commissioner as presented, but approve the 2025 budget for the Bank Commissioner with the enhancement request of $12,420. And just to keep those numbers, if that may be different from what finally comes out in the 2025, but at least there is that authority for that expenditure.
Do I have a second on the motion? Not seeing a second.
Can I make a substitute motion?
Okay. Oh, and our revisor left. I think we can do a substitute motion. That's a priority. Jill, are you good at any? I think so too. So, okay, yes, go ahead, Senator Stefan.
I would substitute that motion with keeping the first part, but at the very end, changing it to not supporting the increase in the per diem.
I understand that motion. Do I have a second on that? Second, Senator Thompson. Discussion. Yes, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be concerned that in the year that the legislature is considering raising its own salaries, that to, and we're not done with that yet, but we will be done with it by the time this gets to the Committee on Ways and Means, that it would be inappropriate to leave the per diem for the bank officers at 35. I am against this motion.
Senator
I have a question. So the original motion, not the substitute, was to allow the expenditure of the money should a bill pass. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, I don't see any, so let's vote on the substitute motion. Senator Stefan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no?
No.
Motion passed. Oh, Elena did. Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. So we voted. Okay, and the motion passes. So yes, go ahead, Elena.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just to clarify, the motion that you just voted on would be to not include the per diem, which would be the governor's recommendation, correct?
Understood.
Could we raise hands? I wasn't clear about who was voting.
All those in favor say aye. On the substitute motion from Senator Stefan. Raise your hands for aye. All those opposed? So motion passes. That was our count. So thank you. All right, that was the last budget of our 19 that we've done. We've done really good work. And Randy, we don't have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday. Is that correct? So no meeting Wednesday. So we're adjourned.